the USA and Venezuela. The empire and the resistance they want the world to fear. Brothers and sisters, what is unfolding before our eyes today is not new, not accidental, and not the result of misunderstanding. It is a pattern, an old and familiar script written long ago by the same hands that once pointed at Iraq and cried weapons of mass destruction, by the same voices that once called Libya a humanitarian emergency right before bombs fell from the sky, by the same institutions that once overthrew governments in Iran, Guatemala, Chile, and so many others who dared to control their own land and their own destiny. Today, that script is being rewritten for a new target, and that target is Venezuela. A nation of immense wealth, a nation sitting on the largest proven oil reserves on earth, greater even than Saudi Arabia. A nation rich in gold, diamonds, bauxite, iron ore, and rare minerals worth fortunes beyond imagination. A nation positioned at a strategic crossroads in the Western Hemisphere. A nation that refuses to kneel. And because Venezuela refuses to hand over its resources, refuses to surrender its sovereignty, refuses to allow foreign corporations to dictate its laws and its economy, it is being painted as a global threat. The United States, under the same doctrine it has followed for 2 centuries, has turned Venezuela into the new villain of the Western Hemisphere. It has revived the mentality of the Monroe Doctrine, a belief that the land from Mexico to the southern tip of South America belongs to Washington's sphere of control, where no independent path is allowed and no foreign influence is tolerated unless it benefits the American empire. Suddenly, Venezuela is accused of everything imaginable: narco-terrorism, organized crime, dictatorship, Iranian influence, Hezbollah presence, global conspiracy. And none of this is presented as a question or a hypothesis. It is presented as absolute truth, repeated day after day until the world absorbs it without demanding evidence. This is exactly the formula used before Iraq. They spoke of chemical weapons and nuclear programs that were never found. They displayed satellite images that revealed nothing. They spoke with confidence while knowing the world could not verify what they claimed. This is how the march to war always begins. Not with tanks, but with narratives. Not with soldiers, but with speeches. Not with battles, but with the slow, deliberate construction of fear. And while they speak of Venezuela as a danger, they quietly take actions that reveal their true intentions. They impose sanctions designed not to punish leaders, but to suffocate the economy of an entire nation. They block oil exports. They seize fuel tankers at sea and redirect them to American ports. They freeze assets abroad that belong to the Venezuelan people. They cripple Venezuela's ability to purchase medicine, food, and necessary goods. Then they point at the suffering they caused and say, look at the failed state, look at the chaos, look at the dictatorship destroying its own people. They create the wound and then use the wound as justification. This was done to Iraq when sanctions decimated the population throughout the 1990s. This was done to Libya until chaos replaced stability. This was done to Iran after its elected government nationalized its own oil. This was done to Chile when a president chose the welfare of his people over the profits of American corporations. And now it is happening to Venezuela. But economic warfare is never enough to justify military intervention. For war to be accepted, there must be drama, fear, talk of global danger. And so the United States begins linking Venezuela with Iran and Lebanon, portraying Caracas as a bridge connecting the Middle East to the Americas. They speak of Hezbollah in Latin America, of secret alliances, of terror networks buried in the Venezuelan jungle. They provide no public proof, no transparent investigation, only carefully crafted narratives designed to make the world believe that an enemy of Washington in the Middle East has suddenly extended its hand into South America. Brothers and sisters, we have seen this strategy before. We saw it in 2003 when Iraq was accused of storing chemical and biological weapons that no one ever found. We saw it when Gaddafi was framed as a threat to humanity right before NATO forces bombed Libya into fragments from which it has still not recovered. We saw it in Panama, where an entire invasion was justified with accusations that disappeared as soon as American troops left. We saw it in Guatemala and Chile, where elected leaders were overthrown by the CIA because they refused to surrender their country's resources to foreign corporations. Every time the script is the same: demonize the government, spread fear, starve the economy, provoke internal chaos, create an international narrative of urgent danger, then offer the solution that was planned from the beginning. And behind every one of these interventions lies a treasure. In Iran, it was oil. In Iraq, it was oil. In Libya, it was oil and gold. In Chile, it was copper and economic control. In Panama, it was the canal. In Guatemala, it was agricultural empire. And in Venezuela, it is everything at once: oil, gold, minerals, geography, and independence. This is why the United States portrays Venezuela as a threat. Not because it fears Venezuelan weapons, not because Venezuela is building global terror networks, but because Venezuela is rich. Because Venezuela refuses to become another client state. Because Venezuela has what they want and will not give it willingly. Brothers and sisters, the truth is that the United States is not preparing to save Venezuela. It is preparing to own Venezuela, to reshape Venezuela, to choose Venezuela's leaders, to exploit Venezuela's resources in the name of freedom. The accusations against Iran and Lebanon are not about facts. They are about building a story where every enemy becomes connected, where every conflict becomes part of a single global narrative that justifies American intervention anywhere at any time. It is the creation of a universe of threats that only the United States can eliminate. It is the mythology of empire disguised as global security. And yet, the world remembers. Iraq remembers the weapons that never existed. Libya remembers the promises of liberation that ended in endless war. Iran remembers the coup that removed its elected leader. Chile remembers the bombs that fell on its presidential palace. Panama remembers the destruction hidden from international cameras. And now Venezuela stands on that same path. Brothers and sisters, understand this clearly. The United States is not acting out of fear. It is acting out of ambition. It is acting out of economic interest. It is acting out of a long tradition of controlling any nation that rises outside its influence. And if the world does not speak, if people do not recognize the pattern, the same story will play again with the same ending. A nation broken, a people displaced, resources transferred quietly and profitably into foreign hands, and history rewritten to justify the destruction. This is not about protecting democracy. It is not about stopping terrorism. It is not about humanitarian rescue. It is about empire. It is about wealth. It is about control. And now they are writing this story once more, hoping the world will believe it again.